Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're unpacking a really profound concept. The cost of disobedience versus, well, the immense price of ultimate sacrifice. We're exploring this through different layers of meaning.
Contrasting human choices with what's presented as an unimaginable divine act.
Exactly. Our mission is to really distill what truly constitutes the highest cost, based on the sources you've provided.
Precisely. We'll trace quite a fascinating journey, I think, from, a simple act of defiance, right up to the most profound kind of abandonment imaginable. It offers a unique perspective on sacrifice, on redemption.
So what is the ultimate cost in these narratives?
Let's dive in and see.
Okay, let's start with what the sources call the learner's first lesson, the cost of simple disobedience.
Right.
Imagine this. A child, they have access to all the sweets they could want, but there's one exception, this one delicious-looking cold medicine jelly.
It's good, but forbidden.
Strictly forbidden by the parents.
Yeah.
But driven by desire, the child eats it anyway, ignores the command.
And the consequence, as our sources highlight, is immediate, isn't it? Pain, sickness. So through that suffering, the child learns, okay, ignoring a parent's command leads to harm. This is presented as a mirror to the first Adam's situation.
With the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Exactly. Your sources suggest an interesting point. Righteous angels' free will, perfected by overcoming a test without suffering. But Adam's, completed through suffering after he failed.
Okay.
So the cold medicine jelly, it ultimately pushes the child towards only healthy choices later. Just like the tree of knowledge, after that initial painful lesson, leads towards only the fruit of life.
But saving Adam after that choice, the sources say God had to make an immense sacrifice. Something about abandoning everything.
Yes. That phrase, abandon everything, really starts to hint at the sheer depth of what we're exploring later. It sets the stage.
Right. That initial cost is clear. Disobedience leads to suffering. But then the sources seem to draw an even bigger distinction. It's not just what is lost, but who is doing the abandoning. How do they differentiate human abandonment from this? Divine abandonment.
Yeah, that's a critical point in the material. Consider the scenario you brought up earlier. The sibling taking the blame for their brother's terrible crime.
Kidnapping, murder, terrible things.
Right, and this leads to their own death. Abandonment by everyone, by all people.
A huge sacrifice.
A profound sacrifice, absolutely. Being abandoned by fellow creatures, humans, or, as the sources starkly put it, even worms, and losing your physical life. That's like a martyr who the sources say is embraced by God after that physical death.
Okay.
But sin, according to these texts, is ultimately against God. So real forgiveness, real judgment, that comes from God alone.
So even that innocent sibling in the example.
Even them. Though maybe not abandoned by people, they'd still face divine judgment with the text called the lake of fire for any other sins they might have committed. Abandonment by creatures doesn't negate judgment from God.
Got it. So it's not just about the physical pain or being cast out by society.
Exactly. Think about crucifixion. Many people throughout history suffered that horrible physical pain, that abandonment by other humans. But for the figure these sources call the last Adam, often identified as Jesus, the crucifixion involved not just the physical suffering, not just the abandonment by creatures,
but abandonment by God.
That is the core, unparalleled difference the sources emphasize. An atoning sacrifice for sin, they argue, requires death and abandonment by God. That's completely distinct from a martyr's death.
Wow. Okay, that distinction really does redefine the idea of ultimate cost.
Yeah.
So, linking this back, the first Adam was commanded to love God enough to give up his life, his soul.
Which meant, in that context, abandonment by creatures, yes, but ultimately being embraced by God.
But for the last Adam, for God's ultimate sacrifice, how does that work?
Well, to really get this concept of ultimate abandonment, the sources use this framework. A first God, the ultimate source, and a second God who undertakes the sacrifice. The second God is the last Adam. As this second God, he sustains everything. All of space-time, he's without sin, can't die unless he chooses to. He received the authority to give up his soul, his life.
But the command wasn't just physical death.
No. God's standard for himself, as presented here, was far, far greater than what he required of creatures like Adam. Physical death wasn't enough for this act.
So what was it?
The second God voluntarily took on the first Adam's sin, his curse. And the demand he placed on himself was to be cut off from the first God.
The ultimate abandonment, a cosmic separation.
Exactly. That's the unimaginable cost being described.
The cosmic separation.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a lot to process. So through that sacrifice, The first Adam receives forgiveness.
Precisely. Your sources state that through the blood poured out by the second God, the first Adam received forgiveness. And here's the stark contrast.
Go on.
The first Adam's death leads to being embraced by God, but the last Adam's death, the second God's death, meant being cut off from the first God.
Wow. Diametrically opposed outcomes.
Completely opposed. It makes the sacrifice of the second God utterly unique in this framework.
We've certainly gone deep into these distinctions today. Sacrifice, abandonment. From a child's mistake right up to, well, cosmic separation for the last Adam.
Yeah.
It really shifts your perspective on cost.
It does. This deep dive drawing from your sources, it really forces us and forces you listening to rethink sacrifice. What does it actually mean for you to consider that the greatest cost isn't just losing your life or being abandoned by everyone else, but this unique divine abandonment, this cosmic separation? It's definitely a powerful lens for looking at choices, consequences, and maybe ultimate love.